This is a preview of what we're going to cover in Scratch Club Week 4. Last week we ran out of time and were unable to cover pens and stamping, so we'll cover that today. And we'll also go over the drawing tools when you're painting a costume for your sprite or your stage backdrop. So let's start with the two types of images that you can paint. If I paint a new sprite, this is actually our word of the week. We have two words this week. It's bitmap and vector. And I have two different modes or two different types of images that I can create in Scratch. Bitmap is an image that has little squares. It's just stored as a bunch of little, they're called pixels, little tiny squares. A vector image stores the image more mathematically, like lines and curves and shapes. And so it gives an image a different property, and the main difference is it allows the image to increase in size in a smart way. And you won't see like a jagged edge that you would with a bitmap because they're the little squares increasing in size. So I'll show you what the difference is. I'm going to create a circle. I'm going to fill it in. There we go. So I'm in bitmap mode with this one. Now I'm going to paint another. Put these next to my cat. On sprite 3. Change that to vector mode. Draw a filled in circle about the same size. There we go. So they look almost the same. You'll see the difference. Move them down here. When I hit the grow tool and I grow this image, see how it has kind of a jagged effect on the outside. Whereas if I grow this one, because it's stored more mathematically, it's able to figure out how to grow in a neat way. And so that's really the main difference. Another difference between the two is, I'll show you in a minute, a vector image is able to store objects in layers in Scratch. And a bitmap is really just almost like a piece of paper. It's if you color over it, that's it. You've just replaced one area of that image with another. So let's get rid of those. Actually, get rid of the cat as well. So we can just focus on our backdrop. So I'm going to go ahead and give myself more space, and we'll work on some of the bitmap mode tools. When I pick bitmap mode, the tools are on the left. If I pick vector mode, I'll see tools on the right. They're just a tiny bit different. The paintbrush is just like that. I can make a freeform, any kind of a shape that I want. The line tool, I can make a straight line. If I want the line to be exactly perfectly straight, either horizontally or vertically, I hold my shift key while I'm clicking and dragging to draw my line. Same thing with the rectangle, actually. If I draw the rectangle, there it is. If I want it to be a perfect square, I'd hold my shift key, and now I can't make it anything but perfectly square. If I wanted to just make it outlined, that's actually the default. It's an empty box, not filled in. I can also change the line width. That'll give me a box that has a thicker border. Once I have a box, I can do some other things like fill. So if I go to the fill tool, now if I fill right here, it's going to fill just the open area, just the white area between its borders. I can also fill with a gradient tool, which really gives kind of a neat effect. So that's what the gradient tool looks like. There are three choices here of how to do a gradient: left to right, up and down, or in a circular gradient pattern. It's going to pick the color. See how it goes from black to white? It's going to pick this color here. So if you wanted to do a different color as your background, you could pick the foreground, then click on the back, and that's how you would fill that way, to be orange and red instead of black and white. Now once I've filled in this with a gradient, if I wanted to fill it in solid orange, you really might have trouble. I guess that one worked out okay, but sometimes it's too, it wants to fill in all the colors that are touching each other, the same kind of color. So that's one of the limitations of a bitmap image. The next tool would be a circle. Circle behaves really just like the rectangle. If I hold my shift key, I get a perfect circle. I can fill it just like I did with the square. With this lower right hand gradient, if you notice, I clicked up in the upper right, and that's where that brighter color or the foreground color appears. So it can give a different appearance than if I had clicked down below. It would have shown that brighter color down on the bottom. The eraser tool, just kind of what it sounds like. I can erase any part of my image. The selector tool allows me to select part of my image. I can draw it like this and then drag it away. You can't actually do that with a vector image. That only applies to a bitmap. If I wanted to stamp, in other words, select a portion of my image and copy it again, I could click the stamp tool, select what I want to stamp, and now I have this little box around it. Drag it over, and that's my stamp. I can move it where I want. So that's basically what you can do with a bitmap. These tools apply to both bitmap and a vector. I can crop my entire backdrop to a selection that kind of gets rid of the rest. I can flip it from left to right or up and down. So those are the bitmap tools. I'm going to clear this, and I'm going to convert this to vector mode. And now notice my tools are over here, and they're a little different. I have an extra tool up here, a pointer, a select tool that lets me pick part of my image and do something to it. We'll cover that in a minute. This is your drawing tool. In a bitmap, it looked like a paintbrush. In this one, it looks like a pencil. But it does the same thing, and I can adjust the width down here. Line tool, exactly the same. It also has the same behavior if I use the shift key. Same thing with a rectangle, and I can fill it just the same way I did it with a bitmap image. Stamping works a little bit differently in that I click my stamp. I don't have a selector. I don't have to draw a square around it. I just click on it. It kind of recognizes this as an object, and so I can duplicate it that way. I can also, let's see if I fill one of these in red, and I use my pointer. This is the use of this tool, by the way, if you wanted to take something and move it. Notice how this is in front of this. You can't do that with a bitmap at all. I can then move it to the back or the front. So if I want the red box behind the orange box, I click the Move It Behind button, and now it's behind. Circle behaves the same. I won't repeat that. The text box, I didn't cover in bitmap, but they both operate the same. I type my text, and if you wanted to change the size of the text, you drag the box and make it larger that way. In a vector image, after the fact, I can change the font down here. In a bitmap, you're unable to do that. This becomes like any other image. It becomes little boxes, if you will. So I can no longer change the text. Like I can add a character to this. I can change the color. I can change the font only in the vector type of image. Let's see, what else have I covered? I missed this tool right here, the reshape tool. So if I take this, with my pointer, I can reshape this image. Notice how I have little circles? I can kind of drag and change the appearance of that shape. Same thing with a circle. I could draw a circle and I can reshape it. So if I wanted to drag down and whatever. So that's how you use the reshape tool. And I guess the last thing I should cover, very important actually, is the undo tool, because inevitably you will accidentally fill the whole background in red and you didn't mean to, or you do something that unintended. You would click the undo button. It undoes your very last thing that you did. If your screen is minimized or it's a smaller size screen, you'd hit the minus key to zoom out, or if you wanted to zoom in on a particular area, you can do that, and the equals key will get you filling the entire drawing area. So that's really what there is to show you about painting. The assignment for today, one of the assignments is to mimic a picture that is also on the lz95.org Scratch Club page. It kind of resembles a Super Mario screen. So if you want to attempt that, I've shown you here all of the tools that you would need to duplicate that image, and that was will be our assignment for week 4. The next thing I'm going to just skip to is how to use the pens features. So I'm going to, I think, just create a new project so we're clean. Let's, I guess, start with pens. The pens, first of all, the way a pen works is you have a sprite and you go to a particular spot. I'll just do it. I'll go to the spot. Let's do that. I'm going to say pen down, and then I'm going to move to another location. I can say, let's just do that, move 100 steps, and then pen up. And what that's going to do is it's going to draw a line. It's going to take me from where I am, pen down, move me 100 steps, and then lift the pen up. So there we go. There's my line. So what you can do with that, you can do, the options are kind of unlimited of what you can do with pens, but we're going to do just a couple of things today. Clear erases all the pens that you've drawn with this sprite. Let's start with, what should we do? Let's start by, I'm going to go up to the upper left-hand corner here. I'm going to kind of fill the whole background in so we can cover the shades and the colors. Let's do that. I'm going to first go to -240 and 180, which is the upper left corner of my screen. I'm going to add a repeat. Let's repeat this 360 times. I'm going to pen down. Then I'm going to move across the screen here to, let's change my X position. Let's set my X position to 180. Oops. I'm sorry, 240. 240. Pen up. And then I'm going to repeat it again. I'm going to make a bunch of lines. It's going to go from here to here and then back to here, over and over and over, increasing my Y, or I'm sorry, subtracting from Y each time so I get some lines. Maybe it'll make more sense when I show it. Let's change my X position back to what it was, because I want to go to that leftmost 240 spot, which is over here. And then I'm going to change my Y by 1. So let's try that. Oops, -1. Sorry about that. Because I'm already at 180. I want to go down to 0, and then it's going to go down to -180. So there we go. I won't let that finish, but it would go all the way to the bottom. Before we let it do that, let's add some kind of fun things in here. Let's have it change the pen. Let's do the pen color. Change the pen color by 1 each time. So it's going to draw a line, change the pen color, and then repeat. So there you go. That's a little slow. Let's I'll show you a trick, unless you knew this trick already. If I hit my shift key and I press the green flag, notice it says turbo mode. If I click the green flag now, it runs super fast. You don't want to do this with all your scripts because sometimes it makes a game that you can't play. But in this case, it helps us to really quickly draw those pens because they are a little slow. I'm going to add a clear in here because each time I do a new thing here, I'm going to want to clear my existing workspace. This time, let's change the pen shade by 1. So I'm going to go ahead and run that. The difference between pen shade and pen color is whatever the pen color that I had, it just changes its shade. I don't know how to describe it. It makes it lighter and then darker. It's all different shades of purple. So that's what you do with pens. I'm going to move this over to the right. I'm actually going to clear this. And we'll do one last thing. I'll show you how to stamp. Let's add a forever, not a forever, let's do a repeat loop in here. Let's do this 180 times. I'm going to turn my sprite 15 degrees. I'm going to have him move 10 steps, and I'm going to have him stamp. So what's that going to do? It's going to have him turn, move a little bit, and stamp himself, which makes another kind of a picture of the cat. So, and we got turbo mode on, so it runs super fast. So there we go. So what can we do with that? So if I change the number of steps that my cat takes each time, I can make my circle a little larger each time. I'm going to do that with a variable. Let's create a variable called steps. I'm going to set my steps to 0 when I start, and I'm going to make him move steps, and then I'm going to change steps by, let's do, 0.5, half a step. So each time I do that, let's run that, it's going to get a little bit bigger. The next thing I'm going to add in there, just for fun, let's change the color effect by 1. Oops, I'm going to clear that. So I can clear out all my stamping and all my pens the same way. It's the same command. I'm going to have him actually, my cat's way over here. You can hardly tell in this sea of cats. I'm going to make him go to the middle by just saying go to 0, 0, the very center of my screen. One last time. And you'll see, super fun. So those are the 2 assignments for today. Drawing the image, also on the lz95.org Scratch page, club page, and to mimic this code to draw some concentric circles with actually any sprite of your choice. Next week we're going to cover all the things we haven't covered yet, including clones and blocks, and then we're ready to start our final project. So I hope you have enjoyed this lesson.